Hello and welcome to the Shutter Sports Refresh. This is the weekly show that breaks down all of the most important news in sports. I'm your host Finn Noel, and let's get right into it. We'll start things off with the biggest event in October. That's right, not Halloween, but the MLB playoffs. The wildcard series, or the first round, finished up earlier this week, and we're now into the divisional series, or the second round. Let's start things off by breaking down the wildcard games. Now, the first series was a battle between two teams in the AL Central. It was the Cleveland Guardians, who had just stolen the AL Central division at the end of the season, trying to prove their worth against the Detroit Tigers and their pitcher Tarik Skubal. And Skubal would be the deciding factor for the Tigers, as he played fantastic, and the Tigers ended up taking this series in 3 games. They move on to face the Seattle Mariners in the divisional series. The next AL matchup was between two teams in the AL East, the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees. Now, the Red Sox, despite being away, ended up taking home the first game. Their star pitcher, Garrett Crochet, was playing fantastic, and he was playing fantastic about halfway into Game 2 as well. But in that Game 2, the Yankees had some late-game heroics and took it home, tying the series up at 1-1. And in that Game 3, New York would just not let up, shutting out Boston to take home the series 2-1. They moved on to the divisional series to face the Toronto Blue Jays. We'll move over now to the National League, where the closer of the two series was between the San Diego Padres and Chicago Cubs. Now, the Cubs took Game 1 with a 3-1 win, but the Padres fought back in Game 2, 3-0. But the Cubs repeated their Game 1 win with a 3-1 win in Game 3, taking home the series at 2-1. And so now the Cubs move on to the divisional series, facing off against the Milwaukee Brewers. And the most forgetful series of all the wildcard series was the LA Dodgers versus the Cincinnati Reds. And unsurprisingly, the Dodgers made very quick work of the Reds in 2 games. The Reds were really just happy to be in the playoffs at all. The Dodgers move on to take on the Philadelphia Phillies. And like I mentioned, the divisional round is still going on, so let's take a look at what's happening there. Now, the Mariners and Tigers are currently tied up at 1 game apiece. Now, that Mariners win came in a very close end of the match, where their star Julio Rodriguez scored a double to run in their other star, Cal Raleigh. That was a fantastic match and won Seattle their first playoff match in over 20 years. Now, the Blue Jays have been absolutely dominating the Yankees in 2 games so far, scoring double digits in both games. They're up 2-0. The Dodgers and Phillies have only played 1 game, and the Dodgers currently lead that series. And the Brewers and Cubs have also only played 1 game, but Milwaukee leads that series 1-0 as well. These playoffs will continue all throughout next week, so make sure you come back to the refresh to see what happens. Let's move over to NFL now, where Week 5 has come and gone with a lot of weird upsets. First off, it was the Denver Broncos, who scored 18 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to take down the formerly undefeated Philadelphia Eagles. And then another crazy comeback happened by the Tennessee Titans, who scored 16 unanswered points to take down the Arizona Cardinals. And that was just their first win of the season. And we'll end our football recap with the biggest upset of all, the Buffalo Bills losing to the New England Patriots. Now, the X factor for the Patriots in this win was their young quarterback, Drake May. He scored multiple touchdowns on drives and fought off defenders the entire game for an impressive win for his team. What a fun game. Moving into college football now, it was a little uneventful this week, but there's 1 game to break down. It was Alabama, fresh off of their win against Georgia last week, taking on the scrappy Vanderbilt squad. But unfortunately, the scrappiness of Vanderbilt just wasn't enough to take down Alabama. Alabama was led by a whopping 136 yards from their running back, Jam Miller. Now let's change up the pace and look at an F1 race. Like my little rhyme there? This was the Singaporean Grand Prix. Now, the winner of this race was George Russell of Mercedes. In second place in this one was Max Verstappen of Red Bull, and in third place was Lando Norris of McLaren. Now, Verstappen is desperately trying to climb in the driver's standings before the end of the season, and to do that, he needs to finish well above both Norris and his fellow teammate Oscar Piastri. And unfortunately for Verstappen, Norris and Piastri were 3rd and 4th in this race, so Verstappen really didn't make much ground up in the driver's standings. Verstappen now sits just about 40 points behind Lando Norris in the driver's standings. And then Piastri is currently 20 points ahead of Norris, leading the driver's standings. But the good thing for Norris and Piastri is that despite the close race for the driver's standings, the constructor standings finished up today. With the performance of both Piastri and Norris, McLaren has officially taken home the constructor standings, so congratulations to them. Let's move on now to some UFC, as UFC 320 went down over the weekend. This event had 2 massive title fights. Now, the first one was a bantamweight matchup between champion Merab Dvalishvili and Corey Sandhagen. Now, Sandhagen is a former champion, as he held the belt back in 2016, but just for 1 fight. But Dvalishvili hasn't lost a fight since 2018, so it was absolutely over from the beginning. Despite a strong first round from Sandhagen, Dvalishvili took home an easy unanimous decision win. Now, the other fight was a light heavyweight championship match between current champion Magomed Ankalaev and former champion Alex Pereira. Pereira was the former champion, and Ankalaev actually took the belt from him during their last fight. Now, Pereira claimed that he wasn't at 100% when they fought that time, and he really proved it in this one. Pereira easily took home the win in the first round by TKO, absolutely dominating Ankalaev. So congratulations to both Dvalishvili and Pereira on their wins. Let's move over to the WNBA Finals now, as we are currently 2 games into the Great Series. The battle is between the Phoenix Mercury and the Las Vegas Aces, and the Aces are currently up 2-0. But boy oh boy was Game 1 an exciting one. And the Mercury found themselves down 1 with just 25 seconds left and had 2 free throws for their star Alyssa Thomas. Now, all Thomas had to do was just make one of these to even tie the game, and if she made both, the Mercury would likely take home the win. But Thomas ended up missing both, and the Aces snuck away with a 3-point win. And then the Aces would dominate in Game 2 to take a 2-0 series lead. And that will do it for this week's episode of the Shutter Sports Refresh. I'm your host, Finn Noel, and I hope you learned something today. You can check me, Shutter Sports Media, and the writer for this episode, Lucky Roberts, out on Instagram right down here. Thanks for watching.